Welcome to Conscious Conversation Central. This is Sheila, and I'm back again with BZ Rieger and Lisa Rush. And it is Friday, February the 9th, 2018. I don't know why, but I wanted to say December right then. So what's up with that? That's weird. And we're going to be talking about Ascension symptoms. And so how did you, I know a little something happened off camera that you wanted to talk about, BC. So how did you want to start that?
I said, Sheila, what does your heart want to talk about?
And I said, I got nothing. I actually sat and thought about it for a little bit, and then
wait a minute.
Busted.
Well, and then I did say to you that my heart started hurting, and maybe that was an expansion thing. Oh, wait a minute. Are you saying then that, okay, wait a minute. Okay, so.
Didn't I say this would be an expansion moment for people to turn the camera on?
Okay, so.
I heard it.
So let me just see if I get this, because I think I did just now. The noticing, okay, so I was using my brain to think about what you asked me. And I actually said the words, I got nothing. And then when thinking about it further, my heart actually started hurting, which I now feel strongly is an expansion of my heart in that moment, because that's happened to me a lot over the last
Me too.
month to 2 months. And it doesn't last very long. It's already passed.
Just wait.
I had that really big one once.
Yeah.
It lasted all night.
Well, I'm having a little breathing issue at the moment now, but
as your heart opens, your mind is confused, because that's part of the disconnect. It's drawing you out of the head, and the head leading the show. The heart knows, and the head thinks about it.
So what I heard you say right then is that was the way that my heart is getting my attention to pull me out of my brain and into my heart.
Yeah, because what did your brain say? Your brain said, I got nothing. And your heart said, I have expansion.
Okay. Yeah.
Aww.
So, okay.
Right?
And because I remember I said to you too, maybe that's what we should talk about, is expansion and therefore ascension symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden the frequency just jacked up in my left ear. You know, that high pitch, it just went to another new level.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean, BZ?
Well, it's different for different people, but oftentimes it's just a signaling that higher frequencies are coming in for you.
Yeah. Okay. That happens to me too. Not just now, but it does. And I notice that it doesn't always, we can be sitting in the same room together having a conversation, and one or the other of us will have this big whoa, and the other one won't. And I always wondered, so it's not something we're actually hearing, as far as like it's beaming in the room.
You're actually hearing it. Yeah.
Well, oh yes, but I mean, sometimes I hear it louder than what she does, and I wondered why that would be.
So you mean like a clock in the room ticking? It's not,
Yeah, we're not hearing it the same at any rate.
Right, because it's you.
Huh.
Well, I was going to say, I've never thought it was something that I was hearing with my ears.
Yeah,
I'm
that's what I'm
hearing
saying.
it, no doubt.
It's your internal icons. It's your way that it's, well, so there's lots of ways that it can be interpreted and that it actually means. And it depends on where you are, where your expansion is and how you're tuning into something. So some instances when I hear the sounds, what I'm hearing is the language of light. And it's actually a beautiful song, although different than I might say a song, on
Right.
this linear flow. I know that oftentimes people describe a kind of a ringing in their ears that they might, describe as, well, what is it, tinnitus or?
Well, and I think, my own personal take on that is that's the closest thing anybody can think of to try to describe what this is.
Yeah, to me, it's tones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of people go to the doctor and, and then they give them all sorts of stuff and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Oftentimes a lot of that is, so again, that's why as you notice different things within you and how you get signals and what is your own signal for you, you're an amazing complex being. That's not only the one sitting in these chairs, right here, but there's so much more of you that's, is all coming into you, but that's out there. And so there is uniqueness to that. It's not there can be aggregation of things, that this is, so, and one aggregation can be that when your heart is expanding, your brain gets confused. Now, how that happens and feels for the heart expansion part for one person is going to be maybe similar, maybe completely different to someone else. And the brain being confused could be, I got nothing, or, whatever it is. So it's different for different people, right? So keep that in mind. And so if you don't hear something, one way, that's, it's not a line in the sand as far as that. That's really important to remember.
Yeah.
So if you wanted the answer to be X and you didn't have X and that's causing you worry or concern or freaking out or whatever, well, that might be something to notice. But the other thing too is that a simple thing is, I don't hold them, and many don't hold them as symptoms, because the symptom is usually you get something wrong with you, and there's absolutely nothing wrong.
Right.
So what
Okay,
they
well,
are,
yeah, see, I think there's just been for the lack of other terminology. I mean, that's the way I look at it whenever because there's actually, I mean, I was put into a group that is the name of the group, Ascension and Energy Shift Symptoms and Changes.
Yeah, well, your physical vessel is having responses to that you can then characterize, again, from a positive or negative, from a fearful, whatever, or just noticing, which has neither, right?
Right.
So they're responses. And what's happening is as your DNA activates, it completely is changing. So the stuff of you is completely changing. All of the stuff of you is completely changing. Inside and outside is completely changing.
Well, there's Lisa and I both have noticed. I mean, and if folks are doing the noticing of things, I know for myself, I've noticed a lot of things changing with my physicality, my physical vessel.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things, and some of these things that have been termed symptoms, at least for me, I have viewed as Lisa and I both have felt that what some of these things are healing reactions, things that,
what it feels like.
yeah, old injuries, maybe even, that are being cleared and repaired in the physical body.
Yes.
Um,
And I'm going to stop you there for a minute, because so an injury, so think about if you have an injury, or just kind of the idea of an injury. Like maybe you were going to storyline, and if you're writing a book about a character and the character has an injury. So usually around that storyline, not only is, let's say if it's their ankle and it snaps, so there's a sound, and there's the physiological stuff, right?
right.
And okay, so that's bone tissue, tendons, nerves, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
But there also was something that occurred in the moment of that injury. Either something precipitated it, or so that had an emotional component to it as well.
Yes.
And then also a mental component to it as well. And oftentimes, although it may be one of the last that one might notice, it had an energetic component to it as well. Okay. It also had an in your life scope, so external to you component to it as well, right?
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So we just rattled off a bunch of components, right? So you can 5 or 6 or whatever it is. And then there's probably more. If you dissect it, parse it all out, you say, okay, each one of those is now infused, ingrained, sucked into the cellular memory of you, not only specifically in that part of your body, but other parts as well, depending on, what all those parameters were for you individually, right?
Right.
And that is part of the unwinding and the unbinding of all of it, right? Because you're an integral part to all of this unwinding and binding. And it also is, you talked about, things physical, the Ascension systems, or your response to the energy frequency upgrades, right? Light frequency upgrades. And I just mentioned that your DNA is activating, so all of you is changing from a cellular level all the way up. Okay, well, if it's changing and it's reconfiguring and it's completely activating, what's in there needs to express and expel all of that on every.
Right. I would say when you were describing all the different descriptors of an injury, you could put that, in my mind, wrap that all into the word of trauma. So, energetic injury, physical injury, mental injury, all of that, whatever, like you said, all of those pieces and parts, the components, let's call that trauma. So there's trauma now in the physical and energetic makeup of this vessel. I'll use myself as an example. I've had over 20 surgeries on my body for different reasons, for different things. And so there's lots of cellular memory that would need to, in this changing of and upgrading of my DNA, and from the cellular level, that, as you stated, as this clearing and purging would need to take place as the DNA is changing, then that's part of what I feel I've been experiencing, is that expressing and expelling that you because there's been a couple of times that you and I have talked that we weren't recording or anything, and you helped me to see most specifically with a physical situation and how that might relate. So there's lots of different things. I'm sure that there's even more that would be for specific individuals, for those specific, traumas that have, that each individual being has gone through. So it's not going to be the same for everyone. And I mean, there are going to be some similarities across the board.
Sure. And there's oftentimes, think of it, because we're linear, so we have the habit of putting a moniker or labeling on something. And so, we can pigeonhole, and so you can look at that and go, oh yeah, that's kind of like that,
Right.
And so part of it is kind of reaching into that pigeonholing and say, yeah, I got that. But if you actually noticed it more, you could tease it and say, yes, that's a broad umbrella. Got it. And I had this and this, or mine was a little this, So, they're just good guideposts for what's going on. It's the creation of your light body, right? Is happening because of the moments that we're in right now, because Gaia is ascending and you're sitting on her back. So you're either going to hop off, or you're going to go with her, in which case, you're making the choice to do those changes. And then your soul is coming in, literally, but also what I was about to say there is your soul is coming in and helping you with that. And so in order for those DNA upgrades and coming online to happen, there has to be space made within the vessel to do that. So first thing that happens is that your heart opens. Right, and then you have integrating process, and all of that comes through, and then you've got the new communication systems that come online through your spine and all. So there's lots of stuff going on, which is a big topic. I think it would be very helpful if we just keep it a little smaller right now, so that people can just start to identify and take ownership. They understand a lot of what's going on already if they will trust and notice and listen to what's going on.
That reminds me of I have a lot of pain in my hips, my knees, and my ankles, and it's not really related to trauma that I could think of, but it had escalated to just almost unbearable proportions as of late. And I tuned into my body and said, what in the world is going on? Why do I feel like all my joints are on fire right now? And I got that, well, they kind of are. I have rheumatoid arthritis that plagues my entire family. And, at different times I would suffer, an isolated spot that would be in pain from that. And like right now, all my joints are on fire, and my body told me that I am healing all of that. And that is what this pain was behind. And in that knowing, I just felt very comfortable, even though the pain did not go away. And it is now, it's dissipating more and more every day. So every day gets better. But it helped me to not go into panic or think that I have to rush off to a doctor and solve this big problem I'm having. Instead, I relaxed in the comfort that my body's got this and that I'm now healing. And that feels a lot more comfortable to me than the panic and the worry, because I know that even the people that are running off to the doctor in the panic and the hurry realize that there's the doctors can't find anything because it's not illness.
Right.
Well, yeah,
and oftentimes drugs that they'll give you because they can't. We could give you this,
right,
money on it, but it's not going to help you. But those will dumb down and actually make the whole process much harder for you. But you said something I wanted to go back to. You gave a really good illustration. You said you were mentioning, I don't remember breaking anything or have some problem with that. But think about, too, a lot of stress or stressors, a lot of emotional things, a lot of mental things, even in Western medicine, will actually, they'll fess up to some of it, is held in different parts of the body.
Yes.
Okay. So now you go into more traditional modalities of healing, and they'll say, oftentimes this is held here and so on and so forth. Okay. So those are injuries that have been sustained and experienced throughout this particular lifetime. And remember, you're multidimensional and you're quantum. So there are many other existences, many other experiences and journeys that you have been on. And since all of that is imploding back into you, you're actually healing that for all of those things. So it's expressing and expelling. You just happen to be the physical platform right this moment that all of that is coming back.
Focal point for it.
Yeah. So you're doing the job.
Okay, so you're saying that if another aspect of myself from another layer of multidimensional layer of me has experienced whatever kind of physical, mental, emotional, energetic trauma, that may be expressed and expelled and rearranged in this physicality. Is that what I'm give to understand you to say?
Yeah, it could be. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
And it's different for everybody, right? So there is not a, 1 through
right
10, and it's not linear. It's not regimented.
Yeah.
But yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I guess I just didn't even consider that as a possibility. I just only because this is the physical vessel that houses me at the moment. But I guess it makes sense that if all those other aspects are coming in, that I just didn't, I don't know, my linear brain didn't go there yet.
Yeah. And you're also, it depends on part of your mission and where you are in the whole process for you individually. And, and in the process that's all going on, but there'll be times often people will clear things for the collective.
Yes.
Well,
I signed up for that.
Oh, did you?
Good times.
Yeah, really good times.
Yeah, I've had that experience several times myself. But remember, Sheila?
Put my hand up for that.
Yeah, thank goodness, right? I had an experience with some dreams I was having. So these dreams were really real feeling. I called them nightmares at the time because they stayed with me for days and they felt real. It almost felt like I would fall asleep in one world and wake up in another.
I was going to say, why do you think they're dreams?
Well, right. This is the gist of my story, that they weren't. But at the time, that is what I thought I was experiencing, dreams. And it was it was very strange because it was me, married to that husband, having this daughter, living in this apartment. I mean, the worlds were, the only thing different was my behavior and my husband's behavior. Okay? So in that world, and I called it the bizarro world because everything was upside down from the world I inhabit. and we were doing horrible things to each other, and in turn affecting my daughter. And she was not the same person. She looked the same and she was the same, but she wasn't the same.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't the same. And it was such a horrific world that I hated these dreams, and they just reoccurred and they reoccurred and they reoccurred. And so finally I asked my IGS, I said, okay, what gives with the nightmares? Because I'm all done with this. I don't know why you're showing me this, because I don't behave like this. And it's hurting my heart. I can't even. And the message I got was that she is me, that there is a part of me making some very bad decisions. And I was like, wow, like I had a hard time wrapping my brain around that. And I said, well, why are you showing me this? Because I don't enjoy it. I want it to stop. And I was told that I could help her. This me who knew how to behave, could teach her and help her. And there were small things in my life that needed improvement. And those things were pointed at. Heal that and you help her. Heal this and it helps her. And I was like, wait a minute, what? So I just began to diligently work on those things that were pointed out to me, that if I could fix that in this here and now, my waking day, that all of that would go away. And it did. And eventually, so I healed those things that needed healing. And not only did it improve my waking world, but also my my sleeping world, because I never went back to her again. I never ever experienced those vivid dreams of that bizarro world. And one day I was just thinking about her. I don't know, she came to me. In my heart, I could feel her. And I had the awareness that she was here now. That I had healed that. And there was no more fractals of me walking around doing insane crap on any level. But we were all unified here in my heart space, making decisions that were healthy and whole, and a better reflection of who and what I want to be. And so when you said that about the physical, that makes total sense to me, because I could see where the sense that I had was that all of the parts of me were coming home, and that this, for some reason, was the focal timeline that they would be integrating into. And so that would make perfect sense to me then, that this would also, if this is, I feel like this is the correction timeline for me, where everything returns to wholeness. And it I don't know, I feel in my heart it is the original timeline that is for me. I'm not sure, this is just a work in progress, but that's how it feels to me in this moment. And so it would make sense then that all the parts of me would come into this focal point as it's the original. I don't know. It's just the current thinking.
You just gave an illustration of something a little larger. Am I good now? I know she's.
Yeah, I know it's Lisa's energy. It happens every time.
I'm waiting.
Sorry.
It's okay. Don't apologize.
I'm just waiting. So you gave a really good illustration of something larger than what we were talking about, which is your physical body responses to things. So this is going to make your head hurt warning.
Oh, sorry.
So we're just going to take, when I say yours, so either yours, Sheila's yours, and everybody else is yours. In your lifetime, there's different node points, and your soul can then decide at that point that things are moving along well for expansion, and it is unlimited, and so it wants to experience more. So it will create other parts of you that break off from that node point, and decision point, choice point is other ways you could hold, in a smaller way you could hold that. and
Yes.
go off and do that so that more experience, more expansion can happen with that. And so you
Okay.
gave a beautiful illustration of one of those aspects and how that actually happened. And
I did not like her, by the way.
okay, well, that's your choice, but she's you.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Well, I've loved her, and she's back.
And it's, again, it's not a judgment thing. It's an expansion and an experience thing.
Okay. Thank you for that. You're helping me to appreciate what that was.
So that happens quite frequently, not
Okay.
to every being. It depends, on the being and all that. But that's not to say it would never happen to a being, a particular individual being. It just, it doesn't always happen all the time, and it depends on, everything's unique, right?
Sure.
But so that does happen, and it can happen multiple times, many multiple times, for you, Lisa,
Sure.
aspect, and they're on well, they could be other places as well, but they're on this planet.
Yes. My ears are popping. Thank you. Okay.
Wait a minute.
Her head hurts. So. Lisa's getting a confirmation of integration on that, and Sheila's going, my head hurts. Wait a minute.
Well, because I want to make sure I heard what I heard.
Okay.
So you're saying that it's possible, and I guess it doesn't matter where it's taking place, the multidimensional aspects of me could be walking around on this planet right now. Mm-hmm. In another physical vessel? Or in a different dimension? Because
in a different reality.
Which would then, okay, my terminology would be a different dimension, a different reality.
Well, yeah, I was calling it a timeline.
Third dimensional, what Lisa just described was another third dimensional aspect of herself.
Yes. And I would just describe it as making very different decisions.
Right, but the point is, to answer your question, Sheila, yes, that there can be, often Zanzibar equity. I just made that up, but is it a thing, right? I don't know, maybe it really exists, right? Or yes, or another third dimensional aspect of you in a reality that is also experiencing
right
Gaia. Now.
And are we all integrating?
Huh?
Is I had a sense that I was calling all my parts and pieces back.
Yeah, well, your soul's orchestrating that. That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
Because remember, we were on the trajectory away, and now we're coming back.
Yeah. Okay.
This is factualized, right? In the factualized embodiment.
Yep.
Physical, soul, ascension, embodiment.
And so the again, for lack of a better term, symptoms, they're just going to be really wide and varied.
Well, there's a lot of that are fairly common.
Right.
And
the ear ringing thing and
your headaches, your sleep is going to change. You either sleep a lot, or you don't need much sleep at all. And then
sleeping a lot.
Next day you got to sleep for 3 days, and then you can for 5 days and not. So yeah. And those are different responses that are happening and different levels in those activations and changing that will create those things. There was a time I think it's happened before then through levels, but there was a time 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now. I've always liked to sleep, and 8 hours or forget it. I just was hello. I couldn't but big up jumps were going on, big expansion, big cleaning, clearing, integration, all that kind of stuff, and lots of activations going on, and all sorts of physical changes, all of it, that we've just talked about. And the timing worked out perfectly, no coincidence there, because what I was doing at that moment and working on with the orchestration and team that we were doing, I only needed 2, maybe 3 hours of sleep.
Oh, wow.
And, was right there, could do all the different things that I was
in Tennessee. I had that experience. We were getting like 3 hours a night.
Yeah.
And I could function, and I was doing awesome.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
So it depends. Each is unique because each being is unique. There are a lot of commonalities. I think that, if something's occurring and it's eliciting fear or worry from you, then do what you feel for you individually that makes you more comfortable. And if that's going to a doctor, then do it. If that's going to maybe an alternative healing professional as opposed to a doctor, then do it. If that's feeling into it and asking your body, as Lisa did, or something, and you could do it. I remember the very first time that I had heart activations and opening. It was like, the construction crew drove up in the big work trucks, and they had sawhorses and saws and crowbars and sawzall. I don't know if anybody's familiar with construction, but a sawzall is a big saw that makes a lot of noise, and it just can rip through all sorts of stuff for the demolition part of a thing. And they just drove right up and said, "Okay, this won't hurt a bit. Take no time at all," and almost complete with the noises. And it would happen happened over a stretch of several nights. In the middle of the night, I'd be prompted. I got up out of bed, sat on the couch, and had all of this feeling going on. And there was a lot of stuff going on in my life at the time, with the marriage at the time that was 25 plus years, had been in existence 25 plus years, and it was already more than half of my life from a chronological linear aspect of the time. And I sat on the couch and thought, well, this is different. And wonder what this is. But I didn't freak out about it. I tuned in. I just noticed, basically, is what I noticed. I said, well, I don't have shortness of breath. I just have the construction crew, and I could actually feel, as I was laughing and in a lot of pain and discomfort and all sorts of stuff. Anyways, the reason I bring that up is that it happens at different times for different people. Mine was very large all at once and over several periods of nights. It was about an hour, a little bit more every night. Wasn't quite at the same time, but I would just get up and sit on the couch and think, okay, this is fun. And then I'd be all set, and I'd let the dogs that I had at the time out, we take a pee break and then go back to sleep, and it was fine. And, looking back on it, there was a lot of integration and a lot of choice points happening in my life right then that I was choosing vis-a-vis marriage and so on and so forth. And in making, and a lot of work that I was already doing to clear things and expand and complete and fulfill contracts that expanding at a faster rate would actually complete and null those various contracts, some being with the person I was married to, and so on and so forth. I'm talking from an energetic level.
Sure.
And my, and various wild and wacky out there people who could do different things and I knew were very good at what they were doing said, I just want to let you know that it's wonderful what you're asking to do and what you're wanting, and they weren't doing anything to me I was doing at all, but they were a facilitator. They said, but I want you to understand that as you make these conscious, intentional jumps to jump forward, it will change everything. And so that changes everything. I said, yep, I got it. I may not know exactly what you're talking about or have any clue, but it doesn't matter because that's what I want.
I'm doing this.
Because I know this is what I'm supposed to do and what I agreed to do. Can I explain that to you? Nope. I just know it. And so bring it on. It doesn't, all of that is, I appreciate you sharing that, but it's, in my knowing, there is really no other choice because none of the others would honor who I am and the truth of who I am.
Right.
So anyways, that's just one little segment there, and that precipitated, and so with that agreement to do that, and they were actually kind of surprised at the level of that I was moving and going, and I said, I'm all in. So that had actually happened a while before this, so, and other things had happened, and then that was probably 2 years before that. So that was in the big moving truck and everything was probably in, for the heart activation was probably in 2002, 2003.
Wow.
So I'm kind of grateful then, if that's the case, that mine is going little bits and splatters here and there, because it's not been. I mean, in '92, I had what I thought at the time was a heart attack. It wasn't. It was a gallbladder attack, but for all intents and purposes, I thought I was dying. And so what I've experienced has been nothing close to that, with the big, construction crew showing up. It's not been like that at all. So, but I have heard, I've been contacted by, and heard from other folks that, that know of folks who thought they were having a heart attack or were concerned because of heart or chest pains, and go to the doctor and have EKGs and finding nothing at all wrong with them, heart wise or gallbladder wise for that matter. And don't know what you're experiencing, go home.
Right.
Kind of thing. And so that does seem to be one of the things that, and for someone that doesn't know any of what we're talking about here, I can see where the first thing when folks have a chest pain, especially if it's something that persists for longer than a moment or two, or or unless it comes with a belch not long after, would go to the doctor. So that's where us talking about things like this, I can see where, because for me personally, knowing that this is a thing, a real thing that is happening to a lot of folks, not just right here where I'm at in North Carolina, but all over the world.
Yeah.
is a very comforting thing. It's not something for everybody to get
Bent out of shape.
ultra excited about. And like BZ said, if it's something that you tune into and you feel like you need to go or you have to go, then by all means do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I certainly was not at the expansion back then. You know, I am now, and didn't have a direct experience of knowing of oh so many things back then, or even a knowing of things back then. And if you were sitting next to me, and if you were one of my friends who happens to be, you know, an RN or a couple of good friends that are doctors and stuff, and I explained my symptoms and what I was feeling, and they, you know, could look at me, they'd go, "Okay, well, we're taking you now to the, you know." So yeah, I mean, I could say linear that it hurt like hell, and you know what I was describing, you know, with a smile and some fun of the contractor's truck showing up. I mean, that's, you know, what it felt, you know, the chest spreaders and the whole 9 yards, and it was, you know, an hour plus, and it was 4 or 5 nights in a row, and you know, but again, it was after I had many years after. I think I've mentioned this on one of the videos we've done. I think it was on the you wanted to ask me about me a little bit, about that epiphany of that it's not an intellectual exercise. You know, you either say and know what you're focusing on, that you know you are a creator being, that you are these things, or you're not. And
Right.
when some little thing comes up that's, you know, annoying or upsetting or frustrating or worrying or whatever, you know, you can't just say, well, except for when that happens.
Right.
You know, so this had happened after that. It was very demonstrable, but when I sat on the couch the very first night that it happened, you know, I thought, okay, well, this is going to be an interesting way to go, kind of a thing. And I thought, no, is this, you know, just notice. I mean, it's as simple and actually very demonstrable as that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's just me. You know, some people may do it just like that. Some people may do it, you know, if you want to label it, you know, even calmer or more knowing than that. And some, you know, may say, holy smokes, you know, I'm about to have a, you know, heart attack. So
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I wanted to ask you, because we at one point, we didn't record this, but we kind of were talking about the flu. And there's an awful lot of that going around. And
there are major flu epidemic, quote unquote, flu epidemics going on right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's true. But they're not flu epidemics. They're frequency light upgrade. Was one how several people out there, I just, you know, I'm sharing someone else's term, but that's what it is. And those, because this is where the, you know, to use a linear euphemism, this is where the rubber hits the road, and there is no more thinking small, and a lot of beings who were way showers and other things. I mean, the way, if I don't often categorize myself, but since this is coming up, I'll do it. The way I would hold it for me is being, I am a way shower and a light warrior, or a warrior of love. And various people hold it in different ways based on what their mission is and what their knowing is and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all accurate for all that. And that's just a way to language it. But so anyways, so ones have come before and been doing this for a while, you know, had, in some instances it was gradual or longer, or maybe it wasn't so gradual because they've been doing it for 40 years, so enough already, kind of a thing.
Right.
But now there's such that on the one hand, it is a little easier because I didn't have this kind of stuff, when I was going through it. Back then there wasn't, just starting the internet, but before that, had a lot of other stuff. There was no internet and no way to have these conversations, and most people, if I would even half the stuff back then, which is pretty tame compared to what I might talk about now, would go, huh?
Yes.
And one of the reasons that I'm not married anymore is I was too positive. So so the reason I bring that up is because right now lots of people are going through these changes and expansion and waking up and all these kinds of things. And yes, it's a more condensed time frame. So in some instances, it may be a little bit more acute in whatever those activations are.
Yes.
But it's easier because it's a lot less of it, because the frequencies have changed so much that you're doing this in an area and a level where the frequencies are raising everything anyways, even if you have no idea about any of this stuff, or consciously, or even trying to pull a pillow over your head. It's happening.
Right.
Regardless. And that wasn't the case before. It was happening before,
Yes.
because we were all tuning in and playing the rules to facilitate that, to get to a certain.
Right.
Well, there is another symptom, and I'm using the air quotes there, that I don't know that I have seen anyone mention anywhere. But I'm going to bring it up here because I did have it a little bit myself about a month and a half before we ever left to go over to Tennessee. But while we were in Tennessee, almost every being, even those that were, in the process with us of awakening or whatever we want to term what we're doing here, a lot of those beings were having this particular issue. And I don't even know if it is a symptom to talk about. But I noticed about a month and a half to 2 months ago that I was having an issue with an odor that was coming as I was eliminating that smelled like mothballs. And I, did the little searching on the internet to find out what it was about. And the only thing that I could find was that it was it's parasites. And I am telling you that we were in an elevator at least 2 or 3 times a day. And the odor that was coming from almost every being's breath of mothballs was very pervasive. And it didn't seem as though a lot of folks really actually either recognized it or anything like that for themselves in that instance. I know I recognized it, as I have had that experience here locally with my own family. And I knew that I had it a bit myself, and it passed rather quickly for me, and it never actually presented in the mouth.
Right. Lisa Renee did an article. I'm really not good with time anymore.
In the past.
Yeah. It wasn't today.
Right. We're clear on that.
It's on the IUV. Maybe early December, could be late November, but I think maybe early mid-December-ish. And she she's talking about a lot of things in there, but in that she talks about actually a lot of what you're giving voice to there, and she explains it in a good way. So that's lighting up for me to point you in that direction. But
Okay, well, I will definitely find that and include that as a link in this video and in the body of this video, because that is something that I noticed. And originally, when it first came into my own personal sphere with, a member of my family, I started Googling that, then what is this? And, and then I had that as well myself, although a much milder case, and it seemed to last a very short period of time. But this is something, like I said, it was just across the board, every single being just about that I came in contact with. Mm-hmm. I know it wasn't the only one that experienced it, because, Lisa and Katie and I, we did share a hotel room. So yeah, we were like, okay, what's up with that?
What is happening?
Yeah, because it really was quite pervasive. So so you think that is another signal of that?
Yeah, it's their responses to what's going on, and some things, in fact, that would be one of them, where there are components that are collective clearing as well.
I got
so
you.
There's a lot of there are a lot of parasitic entities, right, that are different than what you might think from a linear perspective as parasites.
Well, and Lisa has actually written, our Lisa has written, about the mind parasite, and that's been classified in many different ways, including archons and other sorts of things. So when you think about the two ways you describe it, there's elimination, right? So that's help clearing it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And integrating of that kind of thing. And then also through the mouth, through the breath, right, which is the giving voice to. So if there's a parasitic thing and there's programming that's in there, and that programming is being parroted out, right, vomited out through, so there can be a catalyzing of those in your frequency field, right, that can be expressing, literally and figuratively, from that parasitic thing that they may not notice, but there's a shedding off of that from them.
So am I okay? I want to make sure I'm not misunderstanding what you're saying here, because what I took in from that just now is that are you saying that it's a possibility that we, meaning myself, Lisa, and Katie, could have acted as a catalyzing influence for the expelling or expressing of if that is as a program or something that is just leaving?
Yes.
Oh,
wow.
Now that's interesting, because I hadn't thought about it in that manner, because it didn't seem as though anyone else noticed that, but
they didn't notice the program that they had anyways.
Oh.
And it wouldn't have been, and it wouldn't have been, well, in most instances, I think it's fair to say that it would not have been completely done, but yes, it's a sloughing off of. Wow. So between the fact that they're actually on Gaia and they haven't hopped off yet,
right,
things are happening, and then they're also in a magnified transmitting box with other beings. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's okay. Wow, that's
my read and translation of what's coming in on what you just described. That's the first I've heard you describe it. So
right, no, it is the first you've heard us describe it at all.
We talked about it amongst ourselves quite a bit.
Yeah, the three of us.
Because it seemed like everywhere we went, there were issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't matter. It actually did not matter who.
Across class, all of it. It was really profound.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
everywhere.
things are changing.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was it, and it did it honestly it didn't discriminate. It was
that's what I mean.
Absolutely.
it was in the asleep as well as those who you would classify as, you know, a little more awake.
Yeah, but there's lots of things that need to be, you know, expressed and expelled and integration done. And
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
didn't we just talk about in another video we just did? I think we just talked about it there, where I don't know, that was not now. So
Right.
sorry,
It
Another
could.
now.
but of and now I lost that too, of okay, well, maybe it'll come back to me. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Well, no, thank you for that, because that I really had wondered if that was a port, you know, a thing of the upgrades that are going on, because it was so pervasive.
Yeah, because keep in mind, in order for the activations to happen, you know, the vessel that's here has, you know, has so much space, and there's actually an awful lot of stuff taking up an awful lot of space,
Right.
and making it a lot of density and a lot of heavy and compacted and constraining, and a lot of gravity. There is a lot of gravity, you know, if someone has trauma, there is a grave situation. So there's a lot of
Yes.
gravity, not just in terms of, you know, doing boing, 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 because there's no gravity kind of
Right.
thing. So that
Right.
there is that meaning, is that, well, so, and as you go through these changes, you actually lose the gravity, because you're losing the density, because you're altering things, and you are expressing and expelling and changing the different things from a cellular level, and configuring, so activating the DNA. So there'll be times when you feel kind of spacey or lightheaded, or you feel like you're kind of, you know,
Yep.
Well, yeah, that happens quite a bit. I'm glad.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll describe it as, you know, you're phasing in and out. If you've ever watched Star Trek and they're going through, you know, the
Beam me up,
The
Scotty.
transporter.
right, and so they're, you know, they'll phase in and out. Well, a lot of that happens because you're losing that density, you're
Sure.
losing the gravity of that, and you will phase in and out. So there'll be times where you'll depending on where you individually are in the process, where you may have a moment, and it could be several strung together, where you will actually step in and for a moment be residing in a fifth dimensional expression, energetic frequency vibrational expression of you, right? And then come back down. And when you come back in, that's when you have this, because you've got to reorient to well, because it's, if you think of it, if you break it down, you know, so tease out the different pieces of what, it's a faster vibration, so things are moving faster, so it's lighter and it's less dense and all that, and then you come back into this, and it's kind of got to phase in and out of yourself. So
so it's almost like it could be a twofold thing, as what I'm sensing here, so that as something is expressing and expelling out, regardless of how it is, and there's a making room, there is a less dense feeling that could also cause a bit of that lightheadedness or that dizziness, because there is a less dense, right?
Yes, and also as you're expressing and spelling things out, and the active, it's not, you know, okay, all right, guys, bring up the expressing and expelling truck at 10 o'clock, and then 11 o'clock we got an appointment, and we're, no, it's multi-dimensional. So So as stuff shifts off, then stuff flows in and stuff, So it's happening continually, and it keeps expanding and expanding, and your source in a body going through physical ascension embodiment, and it's a process to get there, and the planet is doing the same thing, and all of the multiverses are going through all of these, enormous changes, and since there's infinity and everything is all, it keeps going. At different levels and
Sure.
Right. And I
Everything's affected.
right. And I would say that because I have been present amongst beings that don't know any of this and aren't really interested in trying to find out any of this, or just not really paying attention and noticing things like I know that Lisa and I are, and that you are, BZ, and because when they have some of these physical symptoms, they might get concerned or whatever. And I don't know, like I said, like I was saying before, for me, just knowing, as I was actually around a group of folks over the holidays where this actually took place, and I tuned in myself to what was happening. It was happening with a teenager, and the teenager was having, had reported feeling a bit lightheaded every now and then, but knew that he was fine, and was telling his mother, "I'm fine, don't be worrying about me," right? And so I tuned in, and I could see that's what was happening, was the same thing that I've even been experiencing. And so he knew he was fine, but mom was concerned.
Right.
And so
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say that's, and I kind of get that, having, being a mom, but at the same time, he knew he was fine. So.
Well, again, it goes back to you have an incredible toolbox and resources right within you. And some people may go, "Oh, I ain't got nothing. What are you talking about?" So just, and that's just because you're simply not paying attention. So when you have these things, and if you get freaked out, okay, and you want to run to the doctor, okay, and they don't find something, or they want to charge you more, so they find something, or whatever it is, that's all part of the path that you've chosen. And you can shift it at any moment when you're ready to do that. I can tell you from my own direct experience of knowing from people external to myself who, I haven't been waking up yet, from a cognizing point yet. I had a lot of different things going on with them, and all of a sudden there were several of them, and they decided after, getting worried or getting upset or getting whatever, and then going to the doctor and, paying lots of money, and the doctor's not finding anything. It was like in a 10-day period where these 6 or 7 individuals from different things came up to me and said, and I remember they said very similar things, maybe not exactly this, if there was 10 words exactly the same, but very close. One positive, "I know you make all Keegan's food and this and this, so you know about healthy and all that kind of stuff," or "you work with herbs or flowers or whatever," or you kind of do alternative stuff, or there was similar kind of things.
Sure.
Can I ask you something? I said, sure. And I already knew what the conversation was about to happen. First of all, I could feel it and sense it from them and read it from their energy. But just from a linear perspective, with that lead up, I knew. And, I said, I've been having this or whatever it was, and very specific about this. And I went to this. And I said, yeah. And I was starting to smile. And they looked at me and they said, now you know what's going on. And I don't. I said, yeah. But they were comforted by that. They didn't quite understand it, but there was a knowing. And I said, so, and again, slightly different with each of these 7 beings. I said, so let me guess, you went, they didn't find anything, but they want to run other tests and this and the other thing, and you're not certain now because one, it's the money thing for the test, but you're getting the feeling that maybe this wasn't, working for you. And they go, yeah, not kind of, like exactly, I said, well, depending on how open you are to really wanting to understand more of this, I'd be happy to, play with you more about it, and I'm going to let you choose that. But I said the simple answer that I can give you is that everything is changing. Everybody on the planet, everything is changing. You're going to see a lot of changes in the world. And your body is changing with those. And so sometimes funny things happen or occur or you notice, and that's just part of it. So before you go to a doctor, just check in. And are you really worried? And if you are, same thing I just said here, that kind of stuff. But know that there are millions and millions and millions and millions and millions among millions of people all over the planet doing the same thing, in the same goal. And you're doing great. And a good example of how great you are doing is that you trusted yourself to go out of the normal, quote unquote, normal linear route of going to a doctor. You listened to maybe your own thinking about it, and you said, well, here, I know this one person here is, I just have a sense might be able to help me. And you did that. I said, so that's great. It's not because that you're talking to me, but because you, trusted all that within you. And I said, that's great. You'll find that happens more and more for you, when you listen to that. And that's going to be the best medicine, that you can take.
Yeah, because that's the big thing to take away from this, isn't it? Is that I love the way you've put that, BZ, that I am the best expert on I. Mm-hmm. And so, you are the best expert about you. Mm-hmm. And my own experience with the medical industry, even before all of this, I know that that's a true statement. That, just because they have the letters after their names and they went to medical school for all those years. Now, don't get me wrong. If I break my leg, I would love to have that experience and knowledge fixing my leg. No doubt. Absolutely. Until I get the hang of, speaking that healing into existence for myself. I want that professional there. Other than that, or something outside of the realm of my own situation, for me personally, I'm not trying to tell. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a professional, and I'm not trying to give any kind of medical advice. Let me just put that out there.
And she doesn't play one on TV either.
No, I don't play one on TV or YouTube or anything else. But for me personally, my body knows when it's time to seek medical advice, not my head. And I know, because I experienced it in my lifetime, that my head ran the show where that was concerned for a lot of years. And it wasn't until I was so sick because I wasn't getting the help that I finally took it took it back into my own hands. And so I really love the way you put that we are the best expert on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to learn how to trust ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, look, if I can start doing it, anybody can.
Well, and the only thing I would change to that is I would say, remember to trust yourself, because you already know how to do it. You just haven't been doing it for a while. So remember. All of this is about remembering. Remembering the way Lisa holds this, where you're remembering, but also remembering when you hear and tune into me toning, remembering, it's activating in you various things that you've asked yourself to remember. So this has just been a message from yourselves to yourselves, broadcasting of remembering.
I love that.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much, BZ.
Yeah.
For everything. And Lisa, I treasure both of you and your insights. They've been so helpful to me.
I agree.
In my remembering process. As you both have really been big catalysts for that for me.
Thank you.
So I think this is a wrap, ladies.
Yep.
Thank you so much. And I will have, as always, in the body of this video, links to BZ's blog and also to Lisa's two blogs, the IUV for BZ, Heart Song Musings, and Rush Solutions, Tools for Transformation. Well, transportation.
It is transportation.
Yeah, right?
And transformation. And I will do my best to find that article by Lisa Renee from the IUV and put a link to that here, because I want to be myself.
Yeah, same.
So thank you, ladies. And also, of course, as always, the information for Conscious Conversation Central Facebook page will be in the body of the video along with my email address. So, and I haven't said this in a while. Comment, question, if you'd like, because I am going back to reading them again. But I'm not going to take any of them to heart. So, because there's been a few that aren't really. But I don't want to not read them, because there are very kind folks who do comment and for these videos, and also that it's a great place for questions and comments. But also use my email address. That's the other thing. My email address is really good for. You don't have to leave a comment there. Please feel free to email me with questions or comment suggestions for something you'd like to see us talk about or address. That's also a great place for that too. And lots of people can attest. I do answer those. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Bye.